This is TemTem. It's been in early access for a little over 2.5 years now, and back in early 2020, I made a couple of videos about it, one from my time with the closed alpha, and one more after the publicly accessible early access version launched. And here we are in late 2022, and in 1 week from now, TemTem officially leaves early access at last, and as of September the 6th, will launch its 1.0 patch, marking its stride into full release world across multi-platform, including PC, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series S and X, and the Nintendo Switch, the home turf of Pokémon. Now yes, of course, we can all clearly see it looks quite a lot like another game we all know and love, and I may have just said the name of. And if the words, "just another Pokemon clone," are about to spill forth from your brain and onto your keyboard into my comments section, yes, it is. But also no. No. Please, give me a little bit of your time today, because if you sleep on this, just assuming it's yet another developer trying to cling on to the bitch seat of Game Freak's Pokemon motorcycle in the hopes of catching a few loose $100 bills spilling out of its pockets as it goes at speed along the highway of success, you'll be making a mistake. Now, TemTem, in many ways, can absolutely very fairly be called a Pokemon clone. However, it would be very unfair to say it was just a Pokemon clone. TemTem is fundamentally different to Pokemon in a few very key ways that I, and I suspect a lot of other longtime Pokemon fans, will appreciate quite a lot and gravitate towards. Because a fistful of those ways that TemTem is better than Pokemon are not just, fresh twists or gimmicks, but actually are vastly, mechanically superior to Pokemon's very underpinnings. And I am not just saying that as a bit of Pokemon fandom hater bait here to get you all riled up about yet another copycat game. TemTem is genuinely better than Pokemon in some very interesting ways. And I say this as someone who has been playing Pokemon for 27 years. I played the originals when they were the originals, when they were the only Pokemon games. And I played every single core series game since, and quite a lot of the spin-offs. And it is better in ways I would be very happy if Game Freak noticed and copied back into their own games. I mean, what are the TemTem devs gonna do? Whine about Game Freak copycatting them? Take them, Game Freak. Take these ideas. Use them, please. Now, before we even get into the design and mechanical differences that I want to talk about, just the writing alone sets it apart. And the short version of that is, there's a lot more sass in this game than any Pokemon game has ever had. As a small, brief, tiny example of that, at one point, after beating an NPC trainer who had been very boastful and cocky before the match, I had 3 dialogue options with which to respond to his languishing in his shame. Those options were, "Bye, loser," and "So long, loser," and "Keep losing, loser." This is the simplest example of the sass I'm talking about. And the game is filled with really sassy characters that just have zero chill, and the kinds of dialogue exchanges that are occasionally hilarious, in part because of the sass and the way they're written, and in part because, well, as a Pokemon player, there's such an inherent mental juxtaposition between how this game is written and how Game Freak writes their characters. It is both deliberately hilarious and accidentally hilarious. I'm talking not even Gary Oak's infamous aggressive cockiness holds a candle to some of these NPCs and their wacky hijinks. Well, I say Gary Oak, but in my playthroughs, he was almost always known as Cockjaw. How about you? What did you call your Gary? So, in what ways do I think TemTem beats Pokemon mechanically? Well, let's start at the core, the battle system. You know how in Pokemon you've got moves like Hypnosis, whose purpose it is to put the opponent to sleep, to lock them down for a bit so they can't do anything to you. So you can heal, you can prepare, you can do stuff while they're sleeping, which sounds creepier than it is really. Know how annoying it is that moves like that literally just do not work 40% of the time? Like literally 40% of the time. That's part of the game mechanic. Its accuracy is 60%, so 40% of the time it just misses and doesn't work and wastes a turn. And even the 60% of the time it does work, maybe your opponent stays affected by sleep for 3 turns. Maybe they wake up the very next turn. Yeah, that kind of stuff never happens in TemTem. 0% of the moves in TemTem rely on RNG for anything. There is no accuracy penalty, and any status effects, be it fire or poison or frozen or sleep or any of the other fistful of different status conditions that the game contains, all of them last for a predetermined amount of turn times. You get shown a countdown of that on the UI, so you know at all times how many turns left you have being affected by fire, or how many turns the opponent left has affected by the frozen status, whatever. So everybody at all times knows exactly what's going on and how long it's going to keep going on for, so you can plan for it. Nuking any and all instances of RNG or chance or luck, in other words, in the battle system makes TemTem a vastly superior battle system on its own. Tactics matter. Planning matters. Strategy does not rely on luck to make it work. To go alongside this, most super powerful moves in TemTem use a system called hold, indicated by some delineated bars on the move's selection button. See them there? Each slash on a bar indicates that that move cannot be used until that number of turns have elapsed. So 2 bars mean 2 turns must first elapse. This stops you from face rolling with an uber move in the first turn of your system and then just keep spamming it. This forces you to think more tactically about survival and trading damage. All on its own, this one choice inherently makes the game more satisfyingly strategic. You literally just can't keep spamming your most powerful move at all times, because after every use, that hold timer resets. In addition to that, on top of that, in partnership with that, there's no PP system. There's no such thing as only having X number of uses from a move in the field before you have to go back to a Pokémon Center, or in this game, their equivalent, a Temporium, and recharge it along with your heals. And aside from meaning so long as you can manage your HP, you can stay out in the field grinding or leveling or hunting or whatever it is you're doing out there for as long as you damn well please without having to backtrack to friggin' town every 10 minutes to recharge your PBs. In battle, it means a new kind of mechanic has to be involved, and that is stamina. Or in the terms of some other RPG systems, think of it like a mana bar. All moves require a certain and set amount of stamina, and you are shown this as you select the move, so there's no guesswork involved. It will show you exactly how much stamina it will use if you choose to use it. So again, this system stops you from just spamming away at even a single turn wait move, because even the more powerful ones of those might just burn more stamina than you have to use. Which, by the way, you are free to make that choice. You can overburn your stamina, but if you spend more stamina than you have to use, you take recoil damage to your HP. So there's another balance in choice there. So at this point, when you don't have enough stamina to use your big move, you can choose to use a less stamina-hungry move, or literally just skip a turn and not use any moves at all on that TemTem, which will have the benefit of making your stamina recharge a lot faster than the natural regeneration would. Which could mean you can use that uber move on the next turn, especially if that uber move is on a wait status and you don't have enough stamina for it. If you wait a turn, not only does the wait status recharge, but your stamina recharges enough to use it. Are you starting to get a sense for the kind of balancing act this system asks of you? So, now we have a battle system that stacks several mechanics to make fights a lot more deliberate and a lot more tactical than anything Pokemon has ever done. You don't need to rely on luck, or alternatively, to get dick kicked by being unlucky at the wrong time. So those 3 things alone not only make this game more engaging mentally to actually play, but more challenging overall. And the rewarding kind of challenge here I'm talking about, not Whitney's Milk Tank kind of challenging. Because with mechanics that support and encourage careful strategy, and a system devoid of RNG luck, any and every win or loss that you have is all you, and it feels amazing. You are rewarded or punished based on your choices, not luck. And it feels especially good in the super tough dojo boss fights. In Pokemon terms, that'd be gym leaders, dojo masters, gym leaders, basically the same thing. And with all that said, I'm warning you now, if you haven't played this game yet in its early access form and you're thinking about playing it on day one in its 1.0 release, if your usual strategy in Pokemon is to just focus on power leveling 1, maybe 2 big hitter Pokemon and just face rolling your way through even gym battles, then get ready for a nice, solid, TemTem shaped hip check beyond your most agonizing nightmares, because you will need, and I mean need, all caps N-E-E-D, need to build a team with at least some thought as to type coverage and support roles, and you will need to spend time leveling the whole team up pretty evenly. There is an item in game that forms the equivalent of an experience share item, but unlike modern Pokemon, this only works on one TemTem at a time, and you can just choose not to use it if that's what you like as well, because I know a lot of people don't like the experience share in modern Pokemon games. Point is though, you really do have to level up your team, and you really have to do it evenly, and you really do have to think about the composition of your entire team, not just your top guy or top pair. You have to play TemTem a lot more deliberately than your average Pokemon game, especially if we're talking about just the campaign stuff. Never mind other players at this point. Just the campaign stuff is asking a lot more of you than any Pokemon game ever will, or ever has done to date at least. And don't get me wrong on this. I'm not talking unforgivingly unfair, brutal on the Elden Ring scale here for a newbie. It's just a lot more challenging than you might expect if you, like me, came in thinking it was going to feel like a Pokemon gym leader battle. When you take a step back and adjust yourself to a playstyle that's suitable for this game, it actually feels really, really fair. And again, coming back to that thing where any victory you have feels like your achievement and not just, oh, I got lucky on that one. Oh, and you know how in Pokemon, have you ever accidentally copied over a move when a new move and you're just tapping A and you accidentally replace a move you didn't mean to replace and you forget the old move, and then you have to go through the whole rigmarole of getting heart scales to do the move, remember, relearn a thing and all that, and the move tutors and all that sort of crap. No, none of that in TemTem. Every TemTem remembers every move it ever got taught or learned along the way, and you can swap your moveset out on the fly anytime you like, at any point, even in the field. Just go to it, say, hey, don't use this move anymore, use this move instead, and you can swap it back later. So you can literally change your movesets depending on what you need at the time in any situation, unless you're in the middle of a fight, of course. And yeah, that's, do I have to point out how much better that is than how Pokemon do it? You'll have also, no doubt by now, noticed that basically all battles, and every trainer battle, are 2-on-2, which of course makes strategy and depth of tactics a lot more challenging than a basic, rock, paper, scissors equation like a 1-on-1 battle often boils down to in Pokemon, and indeed would in this game, if that was the case. And it almost goes without saying, but with fight mechanics like this, the PvP scene should be very strongly competitive. Although PvP isn't the big draw to multiplayer games for me, personally, as I understand it, there's several different PvP-focused systems in TemTem, including high-demanding, high-competitive systems, tournaments, ranked matchmaking, dojo wars, where clubs, think player guilds, but clubs can compete with other clubs with specific, tighter competitive rule sets instead of the standard in-game ones. And still more options have other systems that auto-scale for fairness, and PvP systems designed to appeal to the more casual player as well, those, not interested in sweaty, no-loafing it, all about the PvP and nothing but the PvP, but still want to have some fights against real peeps for shits and giggles. There's that stuff in there too. Outside of these systems, you can even challenge people just wandering around in the open maps to a battle, like dueling in more traditional MMOs. And this, of course, like it should be, is entirely optional. If you don't want to PvP, you don't have to PvP at any time. In fact, you can play this game as if it was a solo game for pretty much all of it. You very, very, very rarely have to or are forced in any way to interact with any other players if you don't want to. But even if you do solo it, just the fact that there are so many other players wandering around in the world, all doing their own things on their own little hunts, on their own little missions, it makes the game feel inherently more alive than any Pokemon game usually does. Because every Pokemon game just has, NPCs just standing in one spot forever, or maybe they walk back and forth about 8 steps. Or, in the wild area, in Pokemon Sword and Shield, you had, the ghosts of other people wandering around, but you couldn't really interact with them in any meaningful way, or at all, really. But here, just by nature of it being an MMO, even if you don't engage with the multiplayer stuff, it feels more alive just because it is. Oh, and for those of you not interested in PvP, you can actually play the entirety of this game in co-op mode if you like. So you and a friend can go through all the story missions together as a pair, if that's what you want to do. Now, coming back to that RNG stuff, there are in fact 2 areas in this game which do have some RNG at play. The first is in catching. Just like with Pokeballs, sometimes your Tem cards, Pokeballs, will fail to catch a monster. And every breed of monster has a different catch rate modifier, so some are more resistant and some you'll need better TemTem cards to do. It works pretty much identical to how Pokeballs work. Sometimes you need Great Ball or an Ultra Ball, and even then it's difficult to catch, that kind of stuff. And secondly, where you'll see RNG is in the breeding system. RNG plays a part in this, but isn't even close to the whole story, which if I were to try and explain it, would require its own entire video. Suffice to say, it is a lot deeper than Pokemon's breeding system is, and it is very carefully designed and balanced, so it's an ongoing and active part of the end game, if that's what you want to choose to do in your end game. Think of it like specialist crafting in some other MMOs. It's a lot like that in the way it's intended to be used and the way the systems are built. It relies on a lot of different mechanics. It relies on a lot of support items that you have to earn or buy or otherwise obtain during the game to really sort of maximize your stuff like that. In a lot of ways, it's like that specialist crafting system. You can think about it that way. And like those specialist crafting systems in other MMOs, it can be an endgame profession in and of itself. And within this breeding system, all TemTem can only be bred a certain amount of times. This is indicated with a little logo thing. Again, it would take an entire video to explain it all. Point is, though, they've done this so you can't just have two perfect parents and breed an endless supply of perfect TemTem just to spam onto the market with. It is designed as an ongoing thing that always requires you to bring in fresh breeding stock and things like that, and really think about how you're doing it and why you're doing it, when you're doing it, and who you're doing it with, and which pairs you're using to really maximize and min-max all this sort of stuff. It's a very complicated system that should keep the people who are interested in that kind of stuff very, very engaged. Now, I won't speak too much about the rest of the endgame stuff, as I've not actually personally indulged in that at all, having long ago decided to wait for the 1.0 release before proceeding past even the mid-game. But from what I do know about the endgame systems, they've been very careful to make sure there's several avenues to pursue. Some focused for the PvP people, of course, some for the co-op folks, some for the solo adventurers, some for the crafty types. You get it. There's lots of different things you could be doing in the endgame, depending on your personal preferences and what you want to be doing that day, even. And I point this out because the endgame, of course, is a lot more vital in TemTem than it ever has been for any Pokemon game, because Pokemon is largely a self-contained solo narrative RPG. There's an endpoint, and even after the story is done and you're not done having fun, you can go ham doing a full Pokedex or even a living dex, or if you're a complete sociopath, a living shiny dex. But there is a point, even with the most extreme stretches of gameplay, there is a point where you've run out of things to do. TemTem, being an MMO, that isn't a thing that should be allowed to happen, at least not very, very easily. Having said that, there is a story campaign, of course, and like I said, you can do this solo or you can do it co-op, and while a lot of MMOs kind of half-ass their story missions, or virtually ignore them, New World, TemTem is easily equal, at least, to a decent Pokemon one. It's not super crazy deep, but it is fun, it is engaging. The quests and side quests vary from pretty standard fare of delivery and fetch quests and the like, to decently engaging and occasionally quite long quest chains that are narrative and character driven in some very interesting ways. And a few of them to a much, much more broader and deeper extent than anything Pokemon has to offer. Now, the devs claim if you just focus on the story, if your only mission is to get through the story, there's about 30 hours worth of it in here, which, once more, is about average for what a Pokemon game offers up. So that'll give you a little measuring stick there as well to how much content the story mission has. Now, of course, there's a lot more to do than just push through the core narrative, even more so in this than compared to a Pokemon game. Because it is an MMO, it's been designed to be an endless playground, so there's always something else to be doing somewhere else. I'm really hoping that once this game hits in a week's time, and it hits the what's new front page of the various storefronts for Steam and Xbox and Switch and PlayStation, it will catch a lot of eyes. Eyes that will head to YouTube and Twitch for a closer look at what the game is, maybe even come across this video by doing that. Hello. And you're looking to find out what the game is and what it is not, and I really hope that's the case, because writing this game off, like I said in the start, writing this game off as just a Pokemon clone is a huge mistake. I genuinely and honestly feel this game really deserves a good hard look on its own merits and to be judged on its own merits and on its own footing. Now, the comparison to Pokemon is inescapable. Of course it is. No one is denying that. Not even the devs. The devs know what they've done. They have said the P word more than a few times in their various updates and blog posts and whatnot. They're not hiding the fact that this is very, very heavily inspired by Pokemon. They know that we know that they know that we know that they know. And of course, in fact, it is the natural and sensible comparison point for this game. We're all very familiar with Pokemon. It's been around for 27 years, so the game can really only be measured in any meaningful or usefully informative way with Pokemon as the reference point. But truly, TemTem does have its own identity too. Not just mechanically and narratively, which is the kind of stuff I've been focusing on in this video, and it's as vague as this sound, it has a vibe that just feels different to Pokemon. It's the same song, no doubt. It's played on a few of the same instruments even. But this remix has what I'm reliably informed the kids are still calling an vibe. Anyway, I think I'll have more to come on TemTem. There's so much I cut out of this script. And this is already a long video, but there's so much other stuff that I wrote down and just cut out for the sake of trying to keep on track somewhat. So stay tuned. I might turn those into their own videos at some point real soon. And of course, there'll be Pokemon stuff coming now that we're only a few months away from that one. And then we're getting some real proper details, not just teasers and whatnot. For now, though, thank you very much for watching. Thank you, as always, to the patrons scrolling up above there. And yeah, let me know what you think about TemTem. Are you excited? Have you played it? Were you in early access? Are you looking forward to it? What platform are you thinking about getting on? Many questions! Thanks for watching. I am Bloody, and I will catch you next time.